What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Creative Hunter Podcast. This is Logan Romney, your host, as always. And this week we're joined by a really cool guest. His name's Hunter Bloxham. He's a buddy of mine. Met him a few times at Hunt Expos, and we have some mutual friends. So I think you guys are really going to like what he has to say about the industry, about hunting. He tells some cool stories of hunts that he's been on, and we talk a little bit about gear. So um, you guys are really going to like it. Something big thing right now is I just dropped a film yesterday. So if you haven't watched the bear hunt film that I dropped yesterday, go give it a watch. It's on my YouTube channel. It's part one, and there's two parts to the film. Part two will be coming out on this next upcoming Sunday. And there is a giveaway with the film. So if you like the video, like the film, and leave a comment on part one and part two, and you subscribe to my channel, you'll be entered to win in the giveaway. The giveaway is with Hardside Hydration and with Wilderness Athlete, both companies that I love. I use their stuff all the time. I've known the Hardside guys for years, been working with them for a long time. So go give that video a watch. I'm really excited to share it because it was a really cool hunt. It was really tough, and we worked hard to put together a cool little video for you. So check it out. But guys, coming up next, Hunter Bloxham. Hope you guys enjoy this podcast. Thanks. All right, I'm here with Hunter Bloxham. I've known Hunter for probably a couple years now. I know we've ran into each other a couple times at Western Hunt Expo, but Hunter, introduce yourself to everyone.
Yeah, so originally from Southeast Idaho, just grew up hunting and fishing, and my dad is actually a taxidermist. So I got to be in the taxidermy shop and watch him put together a lot of mounts growing up. He was the person that just got me involved and introduced me into the outdoors, and fell in love with hunting. Just started following him around the mountains ever since I can remember. Yeah, just going chasing deer and elk mostly around Southeast Idaho. And then my brothers, we decided probably, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago to start a page and kind of share what we do, share our passions of the outdoors and hunting with the world around us, and try and capture that through quality photography and reels and short films and different things like that. So yeah, we started a page called Public Land Sportsman. It's been around a lot longer than I like to admit for the amount of growth that we've had, but it's been good. It's not about the amount of followers. It's just we enjoy sharing what we love to do with the people around us, and yeah, just I guess portraying hunting in a positive light. So
That's awesome, man. We'll get into that and talk a little bit more about your guys' page and stuff. What part of Southeast Idaho did you grow up? Because that's where I grew up too.
yeah, so I grew up in Bear Lake.
Okay.
A lot of people think that Bear Lake is in Utah, but Bear Lake County and Bear Lake High School, everything mostly to do with Bear Lake besides Garden City is in Idaho. So right on the Idaho-Utah Wyoming border. So
Yeah. Good. Yeah, I grew up in Preston. I don't know if you knew that, but
oh, cool. Yeah, I
so
didn't know
not
that.
too far from you. Yeah. Yeah. So I hunted
That's
that area
awesome.
too, all over. It's a good spot.
Yeah, that's
Good
awesome.
spot. Well, good, man. So you're buddies with Drake Staheli. Um, if I have it right, you married his sister, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So you guys are
Kind of a
brother-in-laws.
crazy story there, but yeah, I met Drake up at BYU, Idaho, going to
Yeah.
school up there. And then we worked for the same sales company, kind of hit it off over hunting, and just started a friendship that way, started hanging out a little bit and just talking hunting as much as we could. And then, yeah, ended up, it's kind of funny, but I messaged Drake on Instagram on a story that he had, and I was like, "Hey, dude, your cousin's really hot," and it ended up being his sister, and he was like, "Oh yeah, that's actually my sister." I was like, "Oh shoot." Anyways, she ended up having a boyfriend at the time, but I was patient and persistent, so ended up being able to
Nice.
to land his sister, and it's been great, dude. So she's a really
That's good.
awesome girl.
Good, man. How long you guys been married? Has it been over a year now?
Yeah, a year and a half.
Nice.
So it's been really good. yeah, we got married January of 2023. So
Nice. Heck yeah. And she hunts too, doesn't she?
yeah, she more than I'd like to say. She's killed bigger animals than I have for sure, but
Yeah.
she's a go getter.
My wife drew maybe I can tell you what unit after this. You'll know the unit, but she drew a really
Yeah.
good rifle elk tag for this fall in Idaho,
Oh,
and
right on.
so we're pumped for it. Yeah, yeah, you'll know right where it
That's
is,
awesome.
but it's a sweet tag. So I'm excited for her to get that. But like no none of like I didn't draw anything. My buddies didn't draw anything. So just kind of the luck of how it goes. But did you get
Yeah,
anything
that's
this year?
awesome, man. No, I got a third season Colorado deer tag. So
Nice,
that starts, I think the dates are November 9th to the 15th this year. So pretty late. That'll be in the rut and it'll be fun. I've got a tag with two of my other buddies, that we went to Colorado 2 years ago and they went last year. I didn't end up going last year, but we're excited to be back in Colorado. Colorado is a special state for mule deer, and I love I love hunting Colorado. So didn't draw anything else. Just building points in most of the western states, um, Arizona, Montana. Didn't draw anything in New Mexico, Colorado. Yeah, just a bunch of the western states that I'm putting in for. But and then I'll just have my general season Idaho stuff. So
nice, nice. That's good, dude. Yeah, you got to play the game in a lot of those states and just work the system. It's a lot of work.
yeah, for sure.
Good, dude. Um, what what hunts do you have this fall planned? And like for sure, so you got your Colorado one. You got probably Idaho deer and elk.
Yep, Idaho deer and elk. I'll have an archery elk tag in Idaho, and then just general season deer. I might hunt a little bit for archery, but mostly probably rifle, just weekend warrior stuff.
Yeah,
And then we have a few family tags on my wife's side. So her dad has a Utah general season deer tag that I'll go on that with them. Just be a set of eyes and a pack mule mostly.
nice.
And then he also drew a really good elk unit in Wyoming. He ended up burning almost max points on that, so that'll be a sweet hunt, and I'll be going with them on that, and then I'll guide an archery elk hunter, and I'll also guide a rifle elk hunter. So
Nice.
in Idaho. So yeah, it's
Good.
going to be a busy fall, but we're excited for it. So
That's good, dude. That's fun. It's always fun to have stuff to look forward to like that. So good, man.
yeah,
Um, you and Drake, you guys got out this spring chasing some bears, right?
yeah. I wish that we had more to tell on that story, but yeah, we got out for 6 days. It was super fun. I just love getting out in the springtime, and the weather's
Yeah.
perfect. Everything is starting to pop. It's getting green. The flowers are popping. All the animals are out. It's a good time to be in the hills. So yeah, we got out and got after it, but just a little bit early, I think. We went around April 15th, around the opener in Idaho. So it was just a little bit
Yeah.
early, but we went when we could and got out and got after it. So, but yeah, no bears on the ground, unfortunately. We only saw a few bears, but I think if we would have went a few weeks later, it would have been a whole different story. But
Yeah, that was kind of a common theme this year. Is like the bears seem to come out a little later for some reason, even though the snow was kind of melting a little faster. I know on our bear hunt, we didn't see as many bears as we usually do, um, which was interesting because there was kind of like I think there was like less snow than there was last year, but still just for some reason this year was just funny. So that's how it
yeah,
goes
it's interesting,
sometimes.
man. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, we've been bear hunting where with way more snow, and I don't know, like we were seeing more bears when there was more snow and the weather was worse than when what we were seeing this year. So it didn't make sense, but I mean, there's no rhyme or reason. But
I know. Yeah. Cool, dude. So let's talk about your guys' Instagram page. So Public Land Sportsman. So you sounds like you started that with a couple of your brothers.
yeah, yep. So I started it with my brother Jake and my brother-in-law Garrett. we actually started hunting together a long time ago. I think it was an archery elk hunt that we started talking about it. And we're like, dude, how cool would it be if we just like started sharing our hunts through the lens of a camera and like packed around a camera and took pictures of each other and actually we carried around like a little camcorder, and then we had a GoPro and just like little stuff that we started piecing together more for ourselves, just to like relive it. It's crazy how much you can relive a hunt like through video and through pictures. They always say, you know, a picture's worth 1,000 words, and it's a big part of my life. I love taking pictures and being able to relive the memories through pictures. So it's been fun, man. But yeah.
That's cool. We have a lot of people who listen to this podcast who are like really into photography and video. What kind of gear are you guys using, or what are you using right now, like camera wise, stuff like that for filming and photography?
Yeah, so by no means am I a professional. Like I've seen some of your stuff. I've seen, you know, some of Kobe Owen's stuff. You guys are on another level. I'm just kind of more on the dabbling side. Like I enjoy it. It's a hobby, but I'm not more like on the professional side of it. So when I say this, it's like not a hard fast rule. It's just what I use. But I have a Sony A7 III, and then yeah, I'm just running like a G Master lens on it, and then Rode mics and all the fun stuff. I just got some lav mics, so the DJI
Oh,
mics or
nice.
whatever. I'm excited to try those out. Um, got a gimbal, so I'm excited to try that out from DJI. Hopefully I'll add a drone here in the future. But yeah, dude, it's expensive. It's an expensive hobby, but it's fun to piece it together, and that's what I'm running right now. My brothers run the same thing. They all run A7 threes.
Nice.
So
For lenses, you rocking like a 24 to 70, or what's your go-to?
I have a 24 to 105.
Okay.
I like the 24 to 105 a lot just because it seems like it's a really good photography lens, but also I can film like archery elk hunts, you know, out to 80 to 100 yards, and it seems to be really really nice for that. I don't have to switch lenses a bunch. So but yeah, that's what I'm mainly running, probably 95% of the time.
Yeah, me too. I have that 24 to 105, and just that's what I use most of the time. It's really versatile. You can do like talking headshots with it. It's wide enough, but you can also get that zoom in and get good stuff. So that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's the one I recommend to most people who ask like, what should I get for like my first lens or a good all around lens? That's the one. So
yeah, it's been awesome, man. So
yeah. Um, I'm curious. This is kind of a topic that I've been pondering myself lately, and it's like as creating content of hunting, there's always shots where it's like there's cool mountainscapes and there's cool like landscapes and sunsets and all that. How and this is it's not a question that I've asked a ton of people, but in in your mind, like, do you ever think about like, oh, maybe I shouldn't take that shot because if I do, like, people are gonna know exactly where I'm at? How do you judge that, or have you really thought about that much?
yeah, I've actually thought about it a ton. Growing up in a small town in Idaho, it's crazy, but you're kind of an outcast if you don't hunt. You're like the weird
Yeah.
kid, right? And so just growing up, and I feel like small town Idaho, it was like hunting was very much like it's your family and maybe one or two really really good buddies, but you don't just take anybody to your spots because you work hard for
Yeah.
those spots. You scout those spots. You put in a lot of time to find those spots. And I think that there's obviously a time and a place to not show landscape photography. Meaning like, you know, if I were to take this picture, everyone would know where I was at, right? There's certain places that I don't do that, and certain places that I'm more conscious about. But some of the time, it's like I'm in new country or I'm on a hunt that I'm never going on probably ever again. And it doesn't matter as much to me because I hope that somebody asks me about it and I can, you know, give them a little intel as long as they're willing to work for it. So,
True.
not necessarily want to burn anybody's spots with social media, and social media kind of gets a bad rap with some of that stuff.
Yeah.
But but yeah, that's my take on it. Yes and no. I'm conscious of it sometimes more than others, but yeah, overall, I think it's just have a good time, take cool pictures, share it with people. Yeah,
Cool. Yeah, man. I agree. I think like the reason we're out there doing it is to get experiences and make memories and have fun, and then that camera just is able to capture those moments. And so, yeah, I agree with you. And sometimes it's hard because you want to share moments and like places, but it's not like you can't just share them with everyone because it'll ruin spots and whatever. So, yeah, that's just like
for
something that
sure.
I've thought about recently because um, when like making films and taking photos and stuff. It's something that got to think about. Um, cool. So do you guys just for your Instagram and stuff? Have you guys do you guys what companies do you guys work with, or do you have a few that you work with, or how does that? How do you what do you guys got?
Yeah, in the beginning, it's kind of funny, and I'm not really ashamed to say this, but in the beginning of, I guess, getting involved in the industry, I thought that I had to approach all these companies and work with all the biggest companies and all of these big brands if I wanted to consider myself successful. And I guess over the years of doing it, I've gone more away from, I guess, approaching these companies and it's just for content purposes or just for product purposes. Like I genuinely don't even work with companies unless I love the product and unless I've been, unless I trust the product and unless I've been using and abusing the product and it helps me to be a better hunter. So I'm not necessarily working with as many as I was, 6 or 8 years ago, but I feel like the companies that support us now, they're good friends first and foremost. Like we have a personal relationship with them. They take care of us as far as gear or really good discounts on gear that we use. And so some of the big ones that we work with are like Crispy Boots. I've been running Crispy Boots for the last 6 or 7 years, and they've been super good to us. I know the owners personally; they're great dudes, and I know all the guys there, and they're like family to us. And then we work with Exo Mountain Gear. Their backpacks have been awesome. We've been running those for probably the last 5 or 6 years, if not more. Um, let's see who else. Tricer is a big one that we've been working with the past little while. And Drew over at Tricer, he's been awesome to us. Dark Energy, let's see, Scope Cam Adapter, Reggie, he's an awesome dude. Yeah, there's a bunch of Marsupial. We work with those guys. Peak Refuel. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think. Day Six Archery, Dialed Archery.
Yeah.
There's a few bigger ones, but mostly just product that we know and trust at the end of the day. So
Yeah, that's huge. That's a big thing because yeah, like I'm like you. Like when I first was getting into it, I'm like I'm just gonna reach out to everyone, even if I've never used their stuff before, just because like I want to be in the industry and I want to work with brands and get paid to do stuff. And I feel like it is kind of a part of the evolution of getting into it is like everyone kind of goes through that to a point, and then you kind of mature and or have experiences where you realize that like okay, maybe like working with this brand isn't really beneficial for me or them that much because I'm not really passionate about what they have. And so it kind of grows to like where you're at now, where it's like you're only working with brands that you know you want to work with and you're going to use their gear no matter what. And so um, it just makes sense to have that relationship. So that's awesome. Um,
absolutely, yeah.
what advice would you give to people who are getting into it and they're wanting to like start building relationships and get in touch with brands? Like, what do you think is the best way to go about that?
That's a good question. I think at the end of the day, there's probably a thousand ways to skin a cat, right?
Yeah,
First and foremost, I think just staying true to yourself and staying true to why you want to hunt and why you want to share your experiences with others, right? I think all too often, if you're doing it for the wrong reasons or if you're doing it just for the gear or just for check or just for whatever, in my opinion, that's not how I would ever want to do it. Not that it's right or wrong, right? Some people do it for that, and that's totally fine, but that's not why I do it. I do it because I love to hunt, and gear is expensive, and I'm also a gear junkie, and the right gear, the best gear, I should say, is very expensive. And so if you can, add value to that company in any way, shape, or form, and form a one-on-one, a face-to-face relationship with those guys, then obviously, you can portray yourself as an asset rather than a liability, because those companies, they get hit up left and right. They get hit up. They probably get 50 emails a day saying, "Oh, I'm so and so, and I want to be sponsored. Will you send me some gear?" Right? And it's like they want to see the value added on their end. They don't just want these, I guess, promises that they'll get this, this, and this, and then as soon as they receive the gear, they get nothing. Right? We hear all of the companies, talk of the horror stories, and I've seen it firsthand too. So I just basically make sure that if I work with a company, I add value to the company and do my best to get them what they need, all while staying true to myself. Because at the end of the day, I'm not what I would consider a content producer. I'm a hunter, right? And I pack a camera. And so I just basically try to get quality images and, share those with the brands that I work with. And if they can use them, great. If not, I'll keep trying. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's good, man. It's just like remembering what you're in it for, why are you there, um, and then building those relationships. So awesome. Um, we're gonna transition a little bit, or let's do this. Let's talk about some of like some gear. So, is there any like new gear this year you're stoked about, or new products you're trying out this year?
Um, I mean, I'm always stoked to be running the new boots from Crispy, just because I love getting a new pair of kicks on my feet. It's like a new pair of tires on your truck. It's like can't wait to go take them to some gnarly country and go on some hunts. And so I'm excited always for those.
What boots
Newer
are the
gear.
new ones?
So I guess there's a bunch of new ones, but I'm gonna be running the Laponia threes, which is the Laponia has been around forever, but they just basically revamped the sole and added an extra stitching around the rubber band of the boot, just making it a little bit more durable. But other than that, it's the same old Laponia. Like it's got a better, longer lasting, I guess, more durable outsole. So that's good. It won't wear down as fast. And then I also have the Brickstall SF GTX. So it's their stiff flex of the Brickstall. Um, and I'll be running those more for like extreme rugged conditions. And then obviously in Colorado, I'll probably be running the Wild Rocks, which is just a more insulated boot because my feet always get cold when there's snow on the ground. So,
Yeah, me too.
but yeah, other than that, I got a new sight. I'm trying out the dialed sight, and it's been awesome. I like it so far. There's things that are very different that I am not in love with, but there's also things that I really like. It's a simple sight to use. It's a solid design. It seems like it's really solid. It's not flimsy or feel like it's going to break on you or anything like that. But there's definitely, I've been a black gold guy forever, so it's definitely a big difference with having like the vertical stacked pin versus like a 3-pin slider or a 5-pin slider from black gold. So, but yeah, other than that, what else? I got a new bag on my XO K4. I got the day pack, the little 2200,
Oh,
just for running
nice.
around the desert. And then I've also got the 5000. Uh, yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm always getting new gear as far as like camo or layering system or a new piece here and there, but nothing really specific. I've got my kit pretty dialed in, so no huge gear upgrades this year.
Good. Nice, dude. So you're using Tricer tripods,
Yep.
right? Which one are you rocking? I know they have, I think, three of them out now.
Yeah. They just released the JC, I think it is. So I have the BC, which is their small
Okay.
little backcountry tripod. The only thing I don't love about it is you can't stand up with it, but it's so
Oh,
light and so compact that it's like most of my glassing, I'm sitting on my butt anyways. So
yeah.
it's awesome.
What's your optic setup look like rangefinder, bino, spotter?
Yeah, so I have the Swarovski NL Pure 12 by 42s.
Dang.
Love the NLs. They're amazing, crystal clear. Edge to edge clarity is the best I've ever seen in any optic. Although Swarovski did release the new NL Pure sizes, so they have a 14 by 52 and they have a 10 by 52 now.
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to hold on to my 12s just because the 14s, I don't think I would pack the 14s. So
Yeah.
I'm going to hold on to those. And then I have the Swarovski ATX 85 millimeter spotting scope. Love that thing. Obviously, backpacking, you really feel the weight if you're going, a long ways and you got a
Yeah.
lot of weight on your back. Adding a several pound spotting scope isn't the best thing, but I'm young enough that weight doesn't really matter, and I want to carry the optics that help me find game. So I
For
pack a big
sure.
spotting scope, and then my rangefinder's a Leupold 2800. I think it's the TBR, something like that. So
Nice.
yeah,
That's good. Good setup.
yeah, it's pretty
Um,
solid.
nice, dude. How often are you e-scouting stuff, or do you have your areas pretty dialed?
Um, I'm e-scouting a lot more in the recent years than I ever have in my whole life, just because when I was in high school and even growing up hunting, I knew the country in Idaho that I hunted year in and year out like the back of my hand. We never even carried a GPS. This was before Onyx came up even. Like I knew that country like the back of my hand. And so I never really e-scouted. I would go put boots on the ground and see what was out there, scouting, early season scouting before the season opened. But now more than ever, I'm doing a ton of e-scouting because I'm hunting states that I've never hunted before or units that I've never hunted before. And I have a little bit more money to go and travel and go on these fun hunts that I've always dreamed about. So obviously in high school, you're balling on a budget, right? And you don't get to hunt all the Western states. But now it's like, okay, you're building points and you're going to Wyoming. Last year I went to Wyoming. This year I'm going to Colorado. So a lot more e-scouting than I have ever done. So yeah, I spend a lot of time on Go Hunt and on X, and just going through all the tools that they have and finding water and finding elevation bands and finding migration corridors and different things depending on the season. Right? It's always
Yeah.
different depending on what season you're hunting. But I do a lot of e-scouting.
Yeah. Me too. I think it's important. Um, I mean, when you're hunting new areas, you kind of have to have some sort of maps, but then to actually have some knowledge and some mapping system that will show you all the layers and trails and water sources and all that is like crucial if you want to be really successful. So it's good, dude.
Absolutely.
And yeah, Onyx and Go Hunt, good stuff for like finding new tags and tracking all that stuff too. That's good.
Absolutely. Yeah, those tools are crazy.
I know.
I always think that, if our grandparents, like, I always hear the stories of like grandpa's bucks or, even my dad has some awesome deer back in the glory days. And I just think if he had the tools that I have now, like the amount of big deer and big elk that he would have on the wall is
Yeah.
probably, it would be a lot more than it is now for sure.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. It's hard to know. Is it hurting or helping hunting? I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
for sure. I mean,
there's good things in
yeah,
it,
that's
and there's
debatable
things that yeah, I know it's kind of true, but
for
I wouldn't
sure.
want to give it up. That's for sure.
No, absolutely not. Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of the last thing is I just want to ask you to tell like one of your favorite hunting stories. It could be like your biggest buck or one of your most memorable, or even a family member's hunt or something. What's a memorable hunting story that you've got that you could share?
Oh man, it's really hard to come up with one. One of my favorite hunting stories. I think two came to mind. One was the first time I went to Wyoming. So this last year I had a really special deer tag in Wyoming. It's a unit that without saying the unit, it's just a very unique and special place to go hunting. And the mule deer herd is super famous, and it's known for producing some of the biggest bucks in Wyoming. So it wasn't my first time going to that unit this last year. I actually had a tag in 2014 in the same area. And yeah, it was with my dad. So I was the only one with a tag. My dad didn't have a tag that year. And we did a lot of scouting. We'd see, 40, 50, 60 bucks in a basin. And it was crazy just because, like, seeing that many bucks in a basin is just insane. And we were blown away at the amount of deer we're seeing. And they're not all, giant deer, but it's like, well, it's got horns, it's going to be a
Yeah.
big deer in 3 or 4 years. So it was crazy. We looked over a lot of bucks, spent a lot of time over there scouting, and had a lot of buddies that helped us out to kind of point us in the right direction that had hunted those areas. And anyways, I spent a little bit of time. We went in before the opener, and we ended up camping up there. We backpacked in a couple miles, just sleeping in, a little 2-man tent with my dad. It was really cool just to share that experience with him. And on the third day, so yeah, 3 days after opening day, we ended up killing my buck. So it's a crazy story, but we spot this buck from like 1,500 yards away, and I could tell that it had really good forks and really good mass. And it wasn't really wide, but I couldn't tell how wide it is. The deer herds in different parts of the states, their ears are, some of them are 22 inches wide, some of them are 26 inches wide. It's hard to tell how wide a buck is, judging by their ears sometimes. And so we decided to get closer. So we leave everything at camp except basically what we need to go kill this buck, and pack in my rifle, my rangefinder, my binos, and I think we had a spotting scope. And my dad and I take off through this basin, drop down in elevation, and we're going to come up underneath this buck. And we watched the buck bed, so we knew that we had a pretty good chance of killing it when he stood up in the evening. We weren't sure if it was his first bed or if it was his final bed, because I've always heard that, like, bucks will bed a couple times before they're done for the day. So they'll bed in the morning, and then they'll get up, and the sun hits them a little bit, they'll re-bed. So we were kind of waiting for that final bed, and we thought that he was in his final bed. And anyways, we get up to the buck. It takes us a while to find him because we're at a completely different part of the mountain right now, so we're just picking it apart. And this was before Onyx. This was before Onyx and everything, or at least before we had GPSs and everything like that. So actually, we did have a GPS, but it was a junky one that didn't really work. So anyways, we knew where the buck was, and we saw him moving his antlers, and he was looking down the hill at something, and he was locked onto it. And we're like, what the heck is that buck looking at? And it was a guy on horses coming up the bottom of the basin, and he actually bumped that buck before we could get a shot. And luckily, the buck only went like 15 yards and rebedded. He just bedded in a spot that he felt a little bit more comfortable. Anyways, that buck, he was bedded in a spot in that second bed that we felt like I could get a shot off. And so I go to range the buck, and my rangefinder clicks, and I don't get a reading. It's just dead. And I'm like, no way. So I click again, nothing, no reading. And we were only carrying one rangefinder, and we didn't have a spare rangefinder battery. The rangefinder was completely dead. And so we're like, well, this is going to be tough. So my dad and I sit there for, I don't know, an hour and a half. Just, okay, that's 50 yards. There's another 50. That's 100 yards. There's another 50. That's 150. And we're breaking apart the mountain, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was shooting my dad's 300 Ultra Mag, and we had the thing dialed out to 600 or 800 yards if we needed to. And I was still young, like I was in high school, and so I wasn't super comfortable, but like I could take a 400 or 500 yard shot,
Yeah.
or further if I needed to. So we're breaking it apart, and I think we ended up saying it was like 475 yards. And I shot right underneath the buck, and it jumped up, and it only went like it went right back to the patch of trees where he bedded originally before he got bumped by the horses. And that second shot, I dumped him. I just completely dumped him, and my dad and I are high fiving, yelling, and we walk up to the buck, and it was just a really special hunt because we didn't know how good the deer was. We knew that he had good forks and good mass, but it was a lot better deer than we thought it was. And it was really cool to share it with my dad. And on top of that, obviously, you never hope that or wish that your rangefinder dies right when you're getting ready to take the shot, but that's what happened. So my dad and I take care of the buck really quick after we, celebrate and take our pictures and stuff. And it's getting dark really fast, so we quarter it really quick, throw it on our backs, and decide to head up to camp. And it's pitch black at that point. We're getting up there with our headlamps. And like I said, the GPS that we had, this was before Onyx, the GPS that we had was not great. Actually, I think it was before Onyx was on your phone, and it was just like the little chip that you put in the GPS.
Oh yeah.
So it was like trying to like find camp because we had camp marked on the GPS, but it couldn't find it. And this is pitch black. This is country that we've never been in before. We knew
Dang.
camp was above us, but we didn't know exactly where it was. And so we have a full deer on our backs, all our, our rifle, spotting scope, all this stuff. And it's heavy. And in that country in Wyoming, it's steep. And so it's not really country that you want to just walk around in. It's cliffy, it's rocky. And so it's kind of dangerous to walk around at night if you don't know where you're at, because you can get cliffed out, you can fall off a cliff, a lot can happen. And so my dad and I actually decide, rather than wandering aimlessly through the night, that we're just going to build a fire. And so we dump the buck, and we just build a fire, and we slept by the buck all night long.
Nice.
And it's crazy. Like, we didn't make it back to camp. We just slept by the fire, and we'd wake up every, half hour or 45 minutes and restoke the fire. And we made it through the night, but it was the most miserable night of sleep I've ever had. Like, it was just crazy. And the next morning, we ended up seeing some bear tracks by the lake that was pretty close to us, and we're like, oh man, like
Dang.
that's why we couldn't sleep. We were just thinking, like, what's out there? We're sleeping by a buck, and it wasn't like we were scared or anything, but it was just one of those things that's a little bit eerie, not getting back to camp. And so that was one of the most memorable hunts I've ever been on, just sharing it with my dad. My dad's my best friend, and he was just there every step of the way, and it was cool to share that with him. And the other hunt, if we have time for one more quick one,
Go
was
for it.
for my wife. We were on an archery elk hunt in Idaho, just a general season elk hunt, and we've been getting into some elk. I took my wife with me. I taught her how to blow on a cow call as we're driving up the canyon, and we called in a 6 point. This was 2 years ago. We called in a 6 point bull, and he came to the edge of some timber, but he wouldn't cross this opening. And so we went in the next morning. We knew the bull was in there. And anyways, we ended up calling in that bull, or not that 6 point, but another bull that was running with him. And we ended up calling him in to 22 yards. She was calling probably 80 yards behind me. I set her up behind me, and I was blowing on the cow call, and I told her, just wait for like 30, 45 seconds until you stop hearing my cow calls, and then you blow the cow call. And so the bull didn't even have any idea where we were at. But it was a cool experience to share that with her. He came into 22 yards, and I stuck him with my
Let's
bow, and
go.
yeah, it was really cool. I walked back to her, and I was like, I got him, and she just like starts yelling. She's like, oh my gosh, and I was like, shh, just be quiet for a little bit longer, like let him die. But
Dang.
it was cool. It was really cool to share that experience with my wife, and yeah, so that's cool.
Dang, dude. That's awesome. That's so fun. I'm excited to go on some hunts with my wife this year because she's been on a couple, but this will be like the first real hunt she's going on. So that's awesome,
Yeah,
dude.
that's
And I've
awesome.
never I've never had to sleep out like outside of like a sleeping bag or anything. Like that's crazy. So I thought about it.
That's the
Like
only
I never
time.
have. Yeah.
Yeah, luckily that's the only time I ever have, and it makes for a memorable hunt. But I don't recommend it to anybody, man. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool, dude. Well, awesome. Thanks, Hunter. Where do people find you on Instagram or wherever?
yeah, they can find me on my personal page. On my personal page, it's just a little bit more of our personal lives, sharing my wife and sharing our adventures and stuff like that. I share a little bit of hunting there too, just because anyone that knows me knows that I'm crazy about hunting. But my public land sportsman, it's at public_land_sportsman on Instagram. So
Awesome. Yeah.
they
Go
can find
give.
me there, reach out, and yeah,
Sweet. Yeah. Go give them a follow. Hunter, thanks for being on here. Yes, had some great insights and some great stuff. So appreciate it. We can stay on for a second chat after this, but yeah, thanks, dude. We'll talk to you later.
yeah. Thanks for having me, man.